for the show today is Michigan at a glance, and let me give you the monologue for the show before we get on with the on here. Michigan at a glance: a lesson in the need for land infrastructure and nationhood. Hopefully, my face is close to the phone. It's like what we have been saying is sadly no longer prophecy; it's now reality. Detroit bankruptcy underscores the need for land. Flint, Michigan's water crisis underscores infrastructure, and the KWAME KILPATRICK situation deals with nationhood. A nation of our own, off the shores of America and satellite communities in America. That is the end game. Brothers and sisters, as you know, as you may well know, I always want to try to read from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad before I go into things. So if you'll indulge me, give me a second. Honorable Elijah Muhammad says to us in a book called Fall of America, secondly, we must realize the difference between integration and separation. To integrate with evil is to be destroyed with evil. What we want, indeed, justice for us, is to be set apart. We want and must insist upon an area in this land that we can call our own, somewhere where we can hold our heads with pride and dignity without the continuous harassments and indignities of our oppressors. So just in case my voice went out or I was too far from the phone, I need to read that last part to you again. We want and must insist upon an area in this land that we can call our own, somewhere we can hold our heads with pride and dignity without the continuous harassments and indignities of our oppressors. All right, brothers and sisters, so let's get on with the get on here. Why do we advocate for an independent nation? Why does BAIO talk about having a nation off the shores of America? Why do we say that the answer to poverty, that the answer to police brutality, that the answer to biological genocide being introducing diseases as well as health conditions into the black man and black woman through food, through insects, through the air, and things like that? Why do we say that the answer to all of this is happening? And if you are listening to us, do you even care about that? Do you even care that your people are being murdered in a large mass murdering by these means, by the means of biological warfare, by the means of chemical warfare, by the means of straight warfare through militarization of the police? Do you even care about that? You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing about this Michigan situation that's not really funny is until this happened, a lot of you can sit back and say that that is not true. You can say that, the country that we're living in never prosecuted any kind of war against us, never tried to use infrastructure against us, never tried to use biological warfare. But you can't say that now, can you? If you're on Facebook, if you have any kind of news source, and you've seen that nasty brown water coming out those faucets, you can't say that now, can you? If you saw those pictures of those sick children that have been infected with lead poisoning, you can't say that now, can you? You have to look yourself in the mirror. If you've been talking out the side of your mouth for many years, it doesn't matter which one of us you were talking to. It doesn't matter if you were talking to the conscious. It doesn't matter if you're talking to the political. It doesn't matter if you're talking to the religious or whatever. We were trying to warn you that there was a war being prosecuted against you and I, and you kept denying it. You didn't want to believe it was true. And some of you wanted to close your eyes. But with this Flint situation, now you really know it's real, don't you? Don't you? Don't you? And so why do we say that the answer to this is an independent nation? Why don't we say that the answer is voting for Bernie Sanders? Why don't we say that the answer is voting for Hillary Clinton or even Donald Trump? Why don't we say that you need to get involved in local elections and you need to basically get involved with all legislation being passed so this would never happen? Why don't we say that the Flint situation is a result of brothers and sisters not being on the board of trustees, the Chamber of Commerce, or the legislation? Why don't we say that? Because that's not an end game, brothers and sisters. That's a temporary fix. It's a temporary patch. But when somebody is waging an ongoing historic war against you, you cannot fight back with the same system that they're using against you. You can't. Because the system is not rigged for you to use it in your favor. The system is rigged for you to get caught up in it like a spider web, and the more that you fight against it, the more you get wrapped up and the more you get caught. And so therefore, what we're saying is that we've tried to do it here. We tried to build organizations and fight back. We tried to build infrastructure and fight, or not infrastructure, excuse me. We tried to build buildings, and we tried to put together a close-knit group of men and women who look the same and talk the same and wear the same uniforms and do the same thing and work day in, day out. We were able to recruit people who would sacrifice their lives, sacrifice their children to continue to try to collect the money that was needed in order to fight this back. And you know what we found out? We found out that no matter how hard you tried, it all gets torn down in a short, fast order. That's what we found out. No matter what organization you're a part of, we found out that you work hard for years and it gets torn down. And so therefore, what we're saying is that we want a separate territory, a separate nation of our own. That's what we're saying. We're saying that we're advocating for a nation of our own, but what we're saying is that we want a fighting chance. And the only way that we can have a fighting chance is if that nation is off the shores of America. Because, yes, we experienced brutal oppression in France. Yes, we experienced brutal oppression in England. We did. Yes, we even experienced brutal oppression in the Asian, Arab countries and states. Nobody's denying that. Everywhere that you look, we've experienced that kind of oppression, but nothing in this world, in this galaxy, in this universe, compares to the brutal oppression that we experienced in the wilderness of North America. On the flip side of that, brothers and sisters, if you like to look at the bright side of things, if you don't want to blame nobody, it's nobody's really fault, if you want to look at the nice and fluffy side of things, don't you want to grow up in a nation where you have the advantage? Don't you want to grow up in a nation where you have black privilege? Doesn't it sound crazy hearing that come out my mouth? Black privilege? Have you ever heard of black privilege? Do you feel right thinking about black privilege? Do you feel guilty thinking about black privilege? Don't you want to be able to grow up in a situation where you can make 3, 4, maybe even 5 mistakes and the government will still catch you, the nation will still catch you? Don't you want to grow up in a situation in which it doesn't matter what you look like as a black person because all that really matters is your merit? And the only way you can grow up in a situation like that is if it's set up for you by people who look like you. Make no mistake. And so therefore, we're today, because today what you're going to see is in 3 easy strokes, just like a good martial artist, we're going to use Michigan to prove that land, infrastructure, and nationhood is the final frontier. Brothers and sisters, okay, so let's deal with land. Let's deal with land for a second. Now, you know that as a follower of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I always say that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the first thing that you should have is land. Before you have prayer, you should have land. Before you have anything, you should have land. However, every major black leader from the past advocated for land first. It's when we started crossing over into the 80s where it became you have to have God first. You have to have the spirit first. You have to have the ancestors first, and you have to have health first. Listen, to me, what is most important now, number one is land. Yeah, we need infrastructure and nationhood. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But land, to me, is the key. It's the utmost, because if you don't have land, there's really nothing you can really do. If you don't have land, what you're saying is a dream, and it's imaginary. And so when you look at a part of Michigan called Detroit, you must understand that a couple of years ago, Detroit filed for bankruptcy, and that has a whole lot to do with the economic situation in Detroit. Now, I'm not saying that act was the end-all, be-all, because Detroit was a bad city for many, 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 many years. But let me read this to you real quick because it's a part of the whole context, and try to follow me here. The city of Detroit, Michigan, filed for Chapter 9 bankruptcy on January 8, 2014. It is the largest municipal bankruptcy filing in U.S. history by debt, estimated at $18 to $20 billion, exceeding Jefferson County, Alabama's $4 billion filing in 2011. Detroit is also the largest city by population in the U.S. history to file for Chapter 9 bankruptcy, more than twice as large as Stockton, California, which filed in 2012. Detroit's population has declined from a peak of 1.8 million in 1950. Recently, the New York Times called the city home to 700,000 people. Did you hear that? From a peak of 1.8 million to 700,000 people, as well as the tens of thousands of abandoned buildings, vacant lots, and unlit streets. Detroit's bankruptcy filing filed a declaration of financial emergency in March 2013 that resulted in Kevin Orr being appointed as emergency manager of the city by Michigan Governor Rick Snyder. Orr's subsequent negotiations sought to get creditors willing to take a haircut on Detroit's debt and were ultimately unsuccessful. All right, brothers and sisters, so let's start from the bottom and work our way to the top there, because that was some shocking damn information, and I myself, after reading that, need a second to process that. You dig? I mean, really. This particular paragraph comes out of a book that I read called The 100 Unorthodox Strategies. You will hear me refer to this book from time to time because you know me. I think in military terms on anything that we do, and really when you think in military terms, it devoids you of an emotional and feeling kind of way of looking at things. It makes you look at things from a dollars and cents and a plus-minus standpoint. In warfare, whenever you are numerous and the enemy few, they will certainly fear your army's power and retreat without engaging in battle. However, you must not strongly pursue them because things that become extreme tend to revert to their opposites. It would be appropriate to constrain your forces and slowly advance, for then you will be victorious. A tactical principle from the art of war states, do not pursue an impoverished invader. Okay, so what does that mean, brothers and sisters? What does it mean to not pursue an impoverished invader? And what the hell does that have to do with Detroit? Oh, why? It's very simple. Detroit, population 1.8 million in 1950. Population now, 700,000. That's a lot of people gone from that city. And you heard the report's indictment. Abandoned buildings, unlit streets, abandoned lots. That means that Detroit was basically reduced to a wasteland. So in the midst of all of this, at the end of it, at the peak of all of the misfortunes, then you come to find out that they filed for bankruptcy, which basically means that there was money being generated and made, but debts were not being paid. So here you look at it and you say to yourself, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it's quite simple. If there's a certain amount of resources allocated to every city, bills were not being paid, what do you think happened to the money? What do you think happened to the resources? What do you think happened to the programs? They still had city workers there. They still had elected officials getting paid there. They still had people in charge. However, the residents had to suffer. Nothing was being rebuilt. A lot of abandoned buildings. There wasn't even electricity going to certain parts of the city. Now, you listen, brothers and sisters. When you say that you want to build a nation in America, when you say you want to set up a nation in a nation, and you say to yourself that you're able to do that with qualified men and women, you know what the problem with that is? The problem with that is that what land would you build this on when all that has to be done is the lights have to be cut off, the buildings, the water has to stop going there. All of the resources that you need can be cut off, and you would say, well, we can have our own resources. Where the hell are you going to get the water from? You going to wait for it to rain? Answer me. Where will you get the water from? Where will you get the electricity from? Well, we're going to build a dam. You will? You will? They will let you build a dam? Because you don't think that when you set up your nation here, you set up your organization here, they're going to let you build on the most productive part of that land, do you? In the Nation of Islam, we have lessons, and one of our lessons talks about producing land. It talks about the original man owning and using producing land, and how much the colored man owns of producing land. And so, therefore, if you don't look at it that way, because Even in that, we were being taught how to look at things non-emotionally. Warfare is about slowly advancing on a people, because even though they're impoverished, what ends up happening is if you make the people desperate, they have no choice but to fight. That's what that lesson from Unorthodox Strategies was basically saying. It's saying basically that we want to slowly but surely starve the people out so that we can reduce the population. It seems to be working, isn't it? Because if you go from 1.8 million to 700 million, that is not a rapid decline. That's a slow but steady decline. Slowly but surely, we're getting as many people out of this place, and then what we're going to do when we get the amount that we desire out of the place, then what we're going to do is we're going to rebuild it with our own people and people who we desire to be there. You need your own land. You need your own land so you can legislate what resources go to your people. You need your own land so you can control what comes in and out of it for your own people. You can count it, and you can make sure it's not going to fat cats, but it's being evenly distributed and evenly, allocated to those who need it and those who want it. You need your own land so you can control competition and make sure that nobody's getting screwed. You need your own land. And if you don't have your own land, the only thing you could do is bitch, moan, and complain about it, but you really can't do nothing about it because it's not your land. Why don't you understand that? It's not your land. And so therefore, brothers and sisters, we need, listen, if you're going to sit there, you health brothers and sisters, I'm down with you. I'm down with you. Trust me when I tell you I'm down with you. If you do not have your own land to control what kind of vegetables, what kinds of groceries come in and out, what kind of farming is being done, then you are at the mercy of somebody else. Because when you could declare that act of war and say which you do realize that's an act of war. When you say you're building a nation on somebody else's land, or you're building an organization on somebody else's land, and it's established that this is what you're doing, you've flown your flag, you filed your paperwork, so you have put the marker and the laser light on your organization, do you think that wholesome food will be coming to you? Well, we are going to produce on our own land. Word? And it won't be jets flying over dropping all sorts of stuff on your land? There won't be, the same stuff that you guys use in the conscious community to talk about your enemy, you mean like it works against you when you talk about building a nation here. You do realize that, right? So if you are down with the chemtrail clan and you believe that there's chemtrails and people are dropping all sorts of acids on you, you do realize if you build right here, you're right in their line of sight for chemtrails. Think about that for a minute. Because Detroit helps you to understand that if you yourself, as a person that is conscious, you have decided that you want to give it a shot and you want to build your own community, you want to control your own destiny, well, my man, you need land. And trust me when I tell you, that land needs not be here. It should be off the shores of America. We'll be back.
Water in Flint, Michigan was basically poisoned with lead and iron. Now, government officials knew about it for quite some time. They decided that they weren't going to take action. They were going to wait on it. They were going to do more testing, they claimed, for another year, as different officials, including the EPA, said, no, it's problematic right now. The lead's going into the water. Everybody's drinking it, including the kids. If you don't know this, once you get lead in your system, you can't get it out. One kid lost 27 pounds. He's having trouble remembering words he knew. He's sick. We don't know if it's connected to Legionnaire's disease, but Legionnaire's disease popped up at the same time. 10 people killed, 87 others that are hospitalized. And you've got all these cases of people being sick over and over again. Meanwhile, the government's like, I don't know. Let's wait on it. Because God forbid somebody question our decision, and it was done to save money. Now, I want to, at the end, get back to, did they really have to save the money? Why, right? So that's very important. Let's get to that. But first, I want to give you the recent news that's coming out about this story. It turns out Governor Rick Snyder's emails, he's the governor of Michigan, of course, and other communications have been subpoenaed as part of an ongoing class action lawsuit over the city's water crisis. So he had released some emails from 2014 and 2015. Some were redacted. He did not go back to 2013. The decisions they made in 2013, it turns out, might be very relevant. So they're suing for understandable reasons. If your kids were poisoned, I think you'd probably sue too. I know I would. I'd do anything I could to get justice for that. And Lo and behold, it turns out he didn't release all the emails. Interesting. Well, now remember, this all started when the emergency manager that he put in. Now, Snyder is a former venture capitalist. A businessman. You run the government like a business. Oh, Flint's having financial troubles. So I'm going to bring in an emergency manager, and that emergency manager is going to tell them what to do, okay? This local democracy. It doesn't work. You just get in a corporate boss there, and he tells them what to do. Now, to be fair, the guys that were the emergency managers there, Ed Kurtz was the emergency manager at the time. Before the city council ever voted on it, he's the one that authorized switching from the water system that was working, the Detroit system that they were using, to the Flint River, which was problematic. Now, I say to be fair to him, because it turns out, in the latest twist, that he didn't want to go in that direction. The chief financial officer that he'd brought along, Jerry Ambrose, in an unrelated lawsuit, had testified earlier, before this whole scandal broke out, that, in fact, Kurtz met with people who were looking into the quality of the water, including the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, and rejected the switch. But he was overruled. By who? The governor's office. Wow, that's interesting. So let me tell you more about that. Howard Croft, the former director of public works for Flint, who resigned in November 2015, asserted more than 4 months ago in a videotaped interview with the ACLU of Michigan that the decision to use a dangerously corrosive river came directly from the Snyder administration. In the interview, Croft said that the decision to use the river was a financial one with a review that went up through the state. When they pressed him on it, well, how high did it go? He said, quote, all the way to the governor's office. So it turns out it was Snyder's office who decided to use the questionable water in the first place, to make that switch. Well, why? To save money. That's what they say. So let me give you details on that. State officials, according to the Motor City Muckraker, dismissed the complaints about all the problems with the water, saying the discolored, foul-tasting water was just, quote, aesthetic and posed no health hazards, despite 2 studies that showed elevated lead levels, especially in children. The Republican governor's administration appointed the emergency manager.
And we're back, brothers and sisters, and I hope and pray that you are enjoying our show. Sometimes I double mute. I mute on Blog Talk and I mute on my phone. I start talking and stuff like that and don't even realize it. Anyway, we're back, brothers and sisters. I hope and pray that you're enjoying the show. I have a lot of people on the call line, and I want to get them all in because I'm definitely shutting down when I'm supposed to shut down. But, I can't really listen to no more of that. I really can't. I really can't listen to no more of that. Big shouts to Hollip for giving me that clip so that I could play it. And, it's no secret that I have 5 children, 4 daughters, 1 son, one prince. And, raising children is a joy. It's a blessing. I think the hardest thing about raising children really is the heartache that comes from the worry, because you never know. You just never know what will happen to your children and how. But the thing for us that we have to understand here in America is that the key part of any kind of whatever you want to call it, nationalism, revolution, uprising, activism, your key play, your key part, what the enemy knows, without a shadow of a doubt, is that you don't think about infrastructure. The two things that somewhere around 2010 that was starting to be thrown around that never was really explained and never given context was 2 words were architecture and infrastructure. Architecture and infrastructure. People started calling, offensive architecture in football and basketball. They started talking about mental architecture. Even I talked about a nationalist mental architecture. And I will go into that in some future episodes. But infrastructure is something that people are using now, too, to describe every freaking thing. They use infrastructure to describe headphones sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Infrastructure, brothers and sisters, is your foundation. It's your backbone. It is what keeps a city running. It's the thing that's not flashy. It's behind the scenes. Infrastructure is your power grid. It's your sewage system. It's your transportation system. It's your, It's your information system and information highway. Infrastructure is those little things that you cannot do without. Listen, I went to go see the other day. My son and my daughter, they've been nagging me to go see this movie called Fifth Wave. And you know me, I'm waiting for all the Marvel movies to come out and some other things. So I'm like, fifth wave, this is corny. You know, I don't want to see this, but I'm going to see it because you want me to go see it. So eventually I go see it with my son because, you know, he wants to go and hang out yesterday. Man, brothers and sisters, if you're a nationalist, go see Fifth Wave. If you're conscious, go see Fifth Wave, please. That is, to me, one of the most important movies of 2016 if you're going to look at things in the abstract or in the metaphorically. In this movie, Fifth Wave, it's an alien invasion. They call them the Others. You never really see who the aliens are, by the way. And first, a big mothership comes into space, you know, the usual situation. And the first thing that happens is an EMP burst hits the whole planet. Everything that runs on electricity or magnetism goes out. No cell phones, no car, airplanes start falling out of the sky, all of that. That's, brothers and sisters, that's infrastructure. That's infrastructure. And if somebody controls your infrastructure, you are basically screwed. Because without power, without any of that stuff, you're back in the Stone Ages. Those people were back in the Stone Ages. You saw cars in the streets. You saw buildings crumbling. You saw all of that. The second wave basically was natural disasters. I don't know how they did it, but they started causing earthquakes, all sorts of tsunamis and things like that. This started washing out the people. But the third thing was biological warfare. So they infected mosquitoes, and they infected birds, and they gave the birds like an elevated form of the bird flu, and it basically killed, I want to say, like 80% of the population. The only thing that was left was like a small 10% of the population, and what they did with the fourth wave was they killed all of the adults, and they took the children, and they retrained the children to now look at anybody that was a survivor as the enemy and set the children to kill the adults. Does this sound familiar to you? This is fifth wave. This is how Hollywood be putting the truth right in your face. And so therefore, brothers and sisters, infrastructure, when you look at the Flint situation, Flint, Michigan situation, the water supply is infrastructure. And warfare, in many cases, the greatest or the height of warfare is to be able to defeat your enemy without taking one shot, throwing one blow, or wasting one arrow. It's the ability to defeat your enemy with sometimes movement. It's the ability to defeat your enemy by seizing their power supply, by seizing their food stores and things like that. Basically, if you can move on the enemy's logistics, a lot of times you can defeat the enemy. Napoleon was good at this. Stonewall Jackson was good at this. William Tecumseh Sherman was good at this. Sun Tzu wrote in such fashion that is what you should do, and many other Chinese writers and African generals. This is what they did. Hannibal was extremely good at moving on your infrastructure. He understood that. And so the thing about it is this, brothers and sisters, when you look at this Flint situation, you got a lot of people in Flint that not Flint, but in Detroit and Michigan that claim to be this and claim to be that. But they are irrelevant now because this attack blew past all of their rhetoric, blew past all of their killings, their yellings and threatening, and it went straight to what they could not control, which is infrastructure. This is why I said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't care what any of you come on YouTube and say about us. I don't care what you say on the internet or Blog Talk or whatever. You don't have a nation if you don't control infrastructure. That Flint situation should tell you that. Not only did they didn't cut off the water supply to the people, they just poisoned the water supply. And not only is it now affecting the adults, but it's affecting the babies. Let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. Again, I got 5 children. So for me, it's kind of hard to even think about my child now growing up with brain damage and body damage from lead poisoning that I could not control. Now, mind you, my children don't drink water anyway. They don't drink water from the tap. They drink it from the bottle. And I'm not saying that the bottle water that you get is any better, but it's damn sure better than tap water because tap water has fluoride in it and said other things like that. So if you're listening out there and you got children, you should know from this situation now, do not let your children drink tap water ever. I don't give a damn what city you're in. Don't let your children drink tap water. But that really doesn't matter because even if you bathe with the water, it still gets in your skin. And so, therefore, brothers and sisters, what we're saying to you and what we're proposing to you from the BAIO is very simple. When we say land, infrastructure, and nationhood, infrastructure has a capital, maybe even a triple or quadruple capital I. And the reason being is that you cannot fight any fight, you cannot prosecute, you cannot defend yourself against any oppressor if you don't control the infrastructure. Understand something. When you're going to a Middle Eastern country to fight a war, and you're fighting against what's called quote-unquote insurgents, do you understand that that's their infrastructure? Do you understand that America is taking over their infrastructure, but they can never really control the infrastructure because it's not theirs? Do you understand that they've been over there for so many years because they can't control their infrastructure? Do you understand that? Do you understand that? That's what's not being said on TV. That's what's not being said on the news outlets, is that the war really is going to drag on because it's a foreign country and you never can really control their infrastructure. So when we say that word, we're not talking about something transient that you hear on TV or you read in a book. We're talking about the bare bones of a city, of a state, and of a nation. And that bare bones is, again, your power, your information, your sewage system, your railways, your transportation, your air traffic, and all of the rest of the things that keep a nation going, keep people, resources, power, and information coming in and going out. And if you can control that, then you can defeat the enemy. But if you can't control that, then you yourself will be defeated 1,000 times. We'll be back. Actually, we won't be back because we're running out of time here. So I want to give everybody 5 minutes. So let me start from the top and work my way down to the bottom. And I know who this is. Caller from the 347 is my dear brother, my brother from another mother who I love like my own brother, Mr. Hollipsism. How are you, big brother?
Peace, fam. How you doing?
Fantastic, big brother. How you doing?
I'm good. I made me some soup, roasted vegetable. Doing good.
I'm actually eating bean soup while I'm doing this show myself.
Yeah, soup is the deal, man, especially when it's cold like this. But yeah, man, pretty much this is the exclamation point on the whole situation right here. This show you're doing.
Yes,
like,
sir.
We don't really have to explain ourselves anymore. Or we have to go, when somebody says something, we'll just say, see Flint, Michigan.
Right. Right.
You know, that's all we really have to do. I mean, you really just put the period, the exclamation point, and everything else on this whole entire discussion. Think about this. These people, now all these conspiracy theories are coming up. Oh, they're trying to eradicate the black race and da-da-da. No, it has nothing to do with that. What it has to do with is people is making money and making moves, and you are not a factor. You're not that important. Nobody went on. Nobody made a decision at a smoke-filled room and said, "You know what? We're going to kill the people of Detroit."
Right.
These people cutting deals with water companies and whatever, and they just said, "You know what? Let's in the interim, let's just draw the water from the lake, from the river. You know, we don't have to filter it. It's just whatever. We'll just do it as an interim thing." But they didn't realize just how bad it was.
Right. Right.
Because remember, this is government officials doing this. The last thing a government official wants is to be on the front pages of the news.
Right.
So it wasn't like this was an intentional thing. It was just a neglectful thing. This is what happens. And now, all of these black power Americans, what's your solution? Are you going to go and redirect the water? What are you going to do? You're going to sit there and wait for white people to do it for you. And isn't this what I've been saying for the longest? But you see, I'm glad that things like this happen. There's a silver lining in this. I'm sad for the people of Detroit, obviously. But the silver lining to this is that maybe it will make everybody understand what the hell we have been talking about all this time.
Yes.
Because if there's anybody who's trying to challenge us after this situation, then you people out there have to realize who's for real and who's on some BS. And it ain't us.
No doubt. No doubt.
Because we called this. And that's all I want to say. I know you got other callers, but that's basically it in a nutshell. Great show.
Yes, sir. Thank you, big brother. Put you on
Alrighty,
hold.
I'll be listening.
Yeah. Okay. Caller from the 847. Did you want to say something? Okay. Hey, caller.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
Everything is good. How you doing?
Good show, man. Good show, dynamite show.
Thank you,
good
big brother.
information. Good information, man. Good information. Good information. Yeah, like I said, we need, like I said,
your mind, big brother.
You first have to have land. You have to have land. Without land, you're nobody. You are nobody.
Mm-hmm.
You're landless. When you're landless, you're nobody. You know what I'm saying? We haven't figured that out in 400 years. Not only do you have to have land, you have to have land to protect it. You know?
Right.
With black people, we've had land. We had 50 million acres of land under our control at one time, but we lost it all. You know, we couldn't protect it. We couldn't afford it. We couldn't make it sovereign. You know,
right.
When we say land, we mean not just a placeholder. I mean, have land that we control, that the world recognize our sovereignty over that territory. And that's not going to happen in North America. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not without 20 million of us dying.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you know the truth, I know the truth. You know, like I said, we just have to wake people up. You know what I'm saying? It's time. Time is now. The future is now. Have our own nation state. I said, then all the communities in America will have a focus point, and you watch. All the problems we talk about right now will disappear. Black-on-black crime, black-on-black hate, all these things will be a thing of the past, and then somebody else could be the black people of America. You know what I'm saying? We'll be doing our own thing.
Right. No doubt, brother. No doubt at all.
Yeah.
So now, let me ask you this. What you call the I don't know if you heard what I was talking about with that movie being Fifth Wave. Like, did you hear that, and what do you think about that?
No, I didn't hear that part. I didn't hear that part.
Well, basically, you know what? I won't get into it right now. But if you listen to the archive, it's definitely a movie that you should see because it details it basically is an invasion of it's alien. You know, your typical alien invasion apocalyptic movie, but they basically do it in waves. That's why it's called the Fifth Wave. The first one is this, the second one is that, the third one is this. And the first thing that they do is they drop an EMP bomb that takes out the infrastructure. Nobody can use power.
Yeah.
Nobody can use
internet,
nothing like that.
You take away the infrastructure of a modern society, whole society will collapse. It would be like Mad Max, you know what I'm saying? What's that? Mad Max, you know what I'm saying? Or apocalyptic, you know what I'm saying? You take away the infrastructure, that's when you have apocalyptic, you know what I'm saying? Situation. You know, the infrastructure allows for millions of people to live in one particular area and function properly. You know what I'm saying? That's what infrastructure is all about. You take away infrastructure and whatnot, all chaos will break loose. Infrastructure is your distribution system, it's your water system, it's your electricity system, it's your supply system, it's your monetary system, it is your courts, it's your penal system. Everything flows thing. If you run a red light, you know you're going to go through a whole system to get a ticket. You know what I'm saying? You owe money. There's a collection process that's going to come, and it keeps the whole system running. If you're down and out, there's a system that can help you out, whatever like that, to get a loan, whatever like. There's a whole system here there that we cannot live without. You know what I'm saying? It's checks and balances and makes everything function. You know, if you get sick, there's a hospital, your medical system. You know what I'm saying? Insurance, all stuff like that. Transportation, if you need to go from one place to another, there are highways there for you. You know what I'm saying? You need not to worry about trying to be Daniel Boone coming through the Cumberland and fighting bears and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? There's a nice road to drive on. You know what I'm saying? And you have to pay a toll for that because the toll keeps the highway low. Why do I pay a toll? Now, see, when I didn't understand infrastructure, I used to get mad at tolls. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now when I go across the George Washington Bridge, even though I go on the New Jersey Turnpike, I'm like, you know something? Even though I think Jersey's a little excessive, and they said that back then. You know what I'm saying? The Garden State Parkway, they was excessive with their tolls.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But still, though, for the gist of it is, get rid of corruption. There's always corruption. You don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. The tolls are to make sure that the roads and everything has things. Those roads aren't free. When you drive on a highway, it's at least 30 years before that highway is paid for. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You got 30 years before that highway is paid for. They'll build a highway because they got to borrow from it. You know what I'm saying? But through taxes and tolls and everything, and that's how it's paid. And the reason why I'm confident we could build a nation is because African Americans are a $1 trillion economy. If we could ever transmit that to our own land, we could easily build it because we'll have a revenue generation stream that can handle large infrastructure development. You know what I'm saying? It's all about what revenue you can develop. If you're a third world country with people making $1 an hour and 80% illiteracy rate, it's very possible they're not going to ever have that because no one's going to loan them the money to build infrastructure. And if they're corrupt too, the donor country's not going to get their money back, you know? African Americans are in a good position to build a nation state because we can build one and we can have the tax base, we can have the infrastructure and everything in place to monetize it and everything. Everything is about creating a tax base and being able to pay for infrastructure. The more you can pay for infrastructure, the more you can build it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. No
that's
doubt.
What I wanted to say.
You know, thanks. And you, man, that's why I threw that ball to you because I knew you were going to hit it out the park.
Right.
Yep. I knew you were going to hit it out the park. Thank you very much for breaking it down because we can all come at infrastructure from various different ways, you know what I'm saying, with various different nuance. And the more, the better, because I think that people think when we talk about infrastructure, I think we talk about it, they think we talk about it so much that it becomes a numb word in their mind. My argument has always been, I don't think we talk about infrastructure enough, period.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Everything's infrastructure. You know, let me give you an example. First of all, people say, well, how is the white people were able to maintain their foot on that? Because they control the infrastructure, Negro. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They control the ports. They control the timetable. They control the roads, the trails. They had people all over the country. You know, the customs, everything that went on in the country, they controlled. That's the infrastructure. You know,
right?
You cannot do anything without their control. They had their foot and thumb on everything. You know, the ports, you know, the infrastructure like your body, your roads, your bridges, your shipping lanes, your shipping dates, your synchronization of shipping, you know, the docks on the ports and everything. They control that, so there's no way you can overthrow them unless you can replace what they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely.
And then most likely the people that's running all those operations that allow for their system to work are in agreement with your bondage. That's how they're able to hold you in, you know, things. They control the jails, they control the police, they control the hunters, the patrol. That's how they're able to do it. You know, and they were able to do that even when sometimes when they had more slaves than they did white people in certain areas of the South. Because they control the infrastructure.
Agreed.
It was the same thing with ancient Rome. Rome was the same way. Rome had basically engineered an empire. They know how to build roads. They had seaports. They had checkpoints. They had all these things. They engineered bridges. They built canals. They built all these things and spread it over vast territories. And that's how they were able to engineer an empire. And when they brought people to the land of slaves, you were basically a slave forever. You know?
Indeed. Yes, sir. Indeed. Well, listen, brother, I got to bring in Brother Earl real quick. So let me let me put you on mute and bring Brother Earl in.
Brother.
And thank you for being there. Thank you for calling, and thank you for breaking it down. Okay. That's another one of my brothers from the BAIO, College Genesis. Sometimes we call him the godfather of land infrastructure and nationhood. And as you can see, you know, we lean on him many times for the nuance of infrastructure because he's the person that I think has been studying it the longest. And so, you know, you can see the value of it. You can see the value of all that we talk about. And that's why I try to give him as much, you know, throw as much, like what they say, lob pitches, because I know that he's going to hit it out the park. Next, I'm going to bring in my intelligent brother, very powerful businessman, Brother Earl. Brother Earl, can you hear me? Hello? 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 Okay. I guess he doesn't want to, or he may not be there. Caller from the 502, did you want to say something?
Hello, brother. This is Sister Lady Soldier. How you doing today?
Fantastic, sister. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Real tired because I've been working 24/7 the last few days, so I missed sleep about now.
I hear you, sis. I really thank you for calling in, though. Can you please give us your opinion? I would love to hear what you have to say.
Well, I didn't know anything about the movie Fifth Wave until you mentioned it on the show today, so I will definitely try to pinch some pennies and make that happen and go see that because, for me, it'll be like a strategy more than, what could be. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Hope I didn't ruin it for you.
No, I mean, you can't because, movies are to be experienced. So, yeah, I'm going to check that out.
That's true.
As soon as possible.
That's true. So what's your thoughts on Michigan?
Man, ever since I first heard about the situation in Michigan, I've been trying to get up with somebody reputable to, that'll help us out with the water situation. You know what I'm saying? And I've had a really hard time because, kumbaya situation that they want to portray. There's the water here and we're going to help everybody, but I've seen reports where before this all, hit the fan, government workers were getting water separately in bottles.
Right, I saw that, yes.
Yeah, before the general population. And see, I don't want to give my, what I worked hard to, get other people up and turn around and give it to someone that's going to give it discriminatively in a way that's not going to favor our community. I want to help us.
Right.
So
me too.
That's where I've been stuck at for the last 2 weeks. I've been trying to find somebody up there, because I'm just a couple of hours away. So it's nothing for me to drive 2-3 hours anywhere. So I'll get a truck and drive it up there. But who to take it to?
Exactly. I was kind of excited at first when I heard that there were so many people taking bottled water over there. I really didn't stop to think about that, like, how and what and why. And then I saw some of the same reports that you saw, which was reports that were saying things like, that there were workers getting the water and not the residents, and then B, that, really the water's not helping anyway because there's other factors that are there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know, it's a very depressing situation. But at the same time, it's like, at the end of the day, the way I look at it is that, it is what it is. We have to deal with it. But to prevent against it in the future, we really have to, we really have to think about putting ourselves in a position where we control things and that kind of stuff never happens. Because, if we had a nation ran by black people for black people, I don't see black people, screwing other black people in such fashion. Especially if you have like the right people elected, the right people in the proper positions. But I can only see this kind of situation happening when you're in a society where the only thing that matters is the dollar, and so you can say, well, the hell with it. The residents can deal with that, and I don't have to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? That's something that we definitely have to look at. Anybody really has to look at for the future, and that would be taken care of by having your own independent nation.
Mhm. Because it's like that old adage: if there's too many cooks, it spoils the soup. It's the same thing when it comes to government.
Right.
There's just too many layers to the onion.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am. Well, I thank you for calling in, sister. This is the first time hearing you, and I thank you first time hearing you on my show. I heard you on other shows, and I really respect your voice. And I'm glad that you are a member of BAIO and look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Thank you, brother. I plan to do my best to help out the cause.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Well, you be at peace, sister, and I'll be talking to you.
All right, peace.
And finally, caller from the 850. Did you want to say something?
What's up, big brother? This is what's up, Minister Dawood? This is Jonathan.
Oh, big brother,
man?
how you doing? Yes, sir. Everything's good. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Just listening to your
How the
show.
children?
Man, they're crazy. Like, they're jumping around everywhere. You know,
tell me about it.
going under tables and everything. Like, it's starting to get real around here, man. Trying to do homework, you know what I'm saying? Trying to shuffle around with these kids. It's really crazy. I don't know about your show. Like, as far as the Michigan thing, man, the people really put trust in the state. You know, they put trust in infrastructure. When I think about infrastructure, I think about the state. You know, that you don't get a chance of choosing, between two options of infrastructure. There's only going to be one in a certain place that you live in. You know what I mean? So whenever I think about infrastructure, immediately, trust comes to mind. And it's no secret, like, not just Flint, but all of Eastern Michigan is majority black. And then when you look at the western half of Michigan, it's the complete opposite. And we just got to get to the point where, the people know about, what we're doing versus, like, we got the short-term solutions of, we're giving water, but nobody's talking about, actually owning and controlling the infrastructure. And I'll take it from a certain professor from Florida State. He said, he who controls the infrastructure controls the land. So,
exactly.
I mean, it's something that needs to be brought on the board, something that needs to be on the table. Like, hey, we need a nation of our own. We don't need to be completely dependent upon these people for everything.
Without a doubt, brother. Without a doubt.
But I didn't.
You tell me, brother. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't see that video.
I was getting ready to say. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I didn't see that alien video that you were talking about, or the alien movie, The Fifth State.
Oh, Fifth Wave. It just came out though. It just came out from what I understand.
Okay.
But I mean, you being so you're studying this kind of thing within school, and you can. So why don't you give us your take on that from that perspective?
Well, it's whatever municipality you're in, that municipality is in control of all the urban services. So you have an urban service area within that city that controls the water. They divvy out the power. As long as you're within that power, you get the water, wastewater, stormwater treatment. The roads will be serviced. It includes everything as far as soft infrastructure like parks and recreation, police services. If you live outside a certain city limit, you don't get all those services. I don't know, man. I just think that the infrastructure is something that we need to have. We need to have on our side. Yeah, we need to control.
Let me ask you this, brother, because I did a little bit of research on this and read a couple of articles, but I still don't and I don't want to sound ignorant, but one of the things that escapes me is why is the river so corrupt?
I mean, you have different agents that come in from maybe different other water tributaries or other water sources. Like Flint River might be connected to another river source. Because I know down here in Florida we have the Apalachicola River, and that's tremendously affected by the Chattahoochee River in coming out of Atlanta, and they bring down water pollution from residential developments there, and then it comes and streams down south, and Alabama, they have like power plants and other type of industrial activity going on, and that further pollutes the water. And by the time it gets down here, the fisheries are pretty much in a bad situation, because all the pollutants that's floating down the river. So there could be a number of things, but that's when you get into all the water wars. That's when you start having water wars between states.
Because living in the capital region, the Hudson River, for years, you're familiar with the company GE, right? General Electric.
Yeah.
Well, for years, GE, they had a bulk of their stuff up here. That's why, in the city of Schenectady, a lot of black people moved there and white people because they all worked for GE before GE began to downsize. And so anyway, they had a lot of silicon plants and things like that. So what they would do with their waste, their PCPs, they would dump them in the Hudson River. So the Hudson River, when you look at it, on a clear day, the water is nasty looking and green. I mean, that water is terrible. And nobody fishes out the water up here. They're saying that a little bit up north, it's a little bit better. But right here, it's severely contaminated because GE had been dumping PCBs in the water for years. In fact, there was a lawsuit that the city brought against GE at the end of the day, and they won and basically made GE pay billions of dollars to dredge the water. I don't know if you're familiar with dredging.
Yeah.
Basically, it's separating harmful agents from the water. It's a bugged out process because I don't believe that that's possible. But either way, good, bad, or indifferent, the fact of the matter is that if the cities of Albany, Schenectady, and Troy in the capital region, if they decided to use the river, as an alternative water, man, we would all be screwed here. I would have to move because that water definitely has, very, very, very poisonous agents within it, from all of that dumping that they did of that nasty stuff. And the thing is that I guess the reason why I bring this up is that what goes through your mind as a corporation that it's okay to dump that stuff in the water? Like, do you think it's just going to go away and you never have to deal with it again? So I think that, you look at the Flint, Michigan situation and you look at the fact that they were poisoning and all that corrosion and lead was in there. And some people are saying that it's basically a runoff from the pipes. But at the same time, if the river itself was contaminated, why was it contaminated in the first place, and why did not the government basically? Because you have your Department of Environmental Conservation. I've done work for them before, and so there's got to be a DEC in every city and state in America. And how come the DEC within Flint or within Michigan was not on top of that particular job?
I think that they were on. They knew what was going on. They just again they chose the better of the two options as far as from their point of view. They felt that it'd be cheaper just to get the water, and then they thought that it'd still be good even though they tested it. But like you just said, there's no way that drinking water would be good. My only other option would be desalinization plant, and we talked a lot about that in class. That's something that a lot of places do, but at the same time it's pretty expensive. So it's just like, what are you going to do?
What's it called? The what plant?
A desalinization plant. Basically, it takes the salt water and makes it purified or whatever type of water. They could have different plants that take those type of waters and make it potable, but at the same time, it's just very expensive. So they were faced with that situation. They were getting their water from Detroit. So I mean, wow. The option I think would have been just to keep getting your water from Detroit. That would have been the more ethical option to do, but for whatever reason, whether it's municipal or what, they wanted to do what they wanted to do. And we're just suffering at their whim. It's like how are we gonna get that message to our people? Like how are we gonna step past the okay, we're bringing bottled water in, and I applaud those brothers from New Era Detroit. Like they actually going out in the streets, and they came up there and they've been sending out water. Or other organizations that have been doing that. A noble effort. It's just it's a conversation.
You know what, brother? I'm sorry, I got somebody from the 646 that wants to talk.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, well, stand by. Let me see who this is. Caller from 646.
This is Mac. What's up, brother?
Oh, what's up, big brother? How you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm fantastic, brother. Let me calm down.
What's up, Mark?
Peace, Jonathan. What's up, brother?
Nothing much. Getting ready for Cam to win this football game, but I know. I mean, he's always gonna win, though, right? I mean, yeah, he's already got the win. He got the win,
brother.
Yeah.
Boy, man, I'm pulling through for him so much, man. He's actually from the crib. Like, both of my sisters went to school with him, and
word?
Yeah, he's from Southwest Atlanta, Westlake High School, and
got you.
You know, so I knew about him when he was growing up, and then he went to UF, and he's doing his thing. But yeah, back to the top of that. But
yeah, I just wanted to add on to what Jonathan and you were saying. It's about money. It's about these companies and the government making money off of the people. They could care less whether people live or die, whether they get good water or bad water. And, you know, the people at the top are going to eat off of this because they you know, I was reading an article, they're ready to put, I think, between $500 million to $1 billion towards Flint, which means the people at the top who control all that money are going to eat lovely. And maybe some of that trickles down to the people.
No doubt. No doubt, brother. No doubt. Now, we talked about this on your show the other day where you and Ivy were talking about, or Sister Ivy, I should say, were talking about how the owner of the Detroit Pistons, I guess, what does he donate? Did he donate some water or some money?
He did a little of both. He donated $10 million of his own money. He's getting other businessmen and other business people to donate money, and he wants to help rebuild the infrastructure of Flint because he was born and bred in Flint.
Oh, word? That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as like what, like that's like fixing the pipes.
He wants to do a little bit of everything. From the article I read and from, you know, what he wants to do. He wants to help small businesses in Flint and set up small businesses and get the infrastructure back up. Now, if he can accomplish some of that, that's a good thing. You know, but he's going to probably meet opposition in the government.
No doubt.
Whoa, you can't do all that just yet.
Right, that brings to mind. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hello?
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, I
was done.
Yeah. Basically, like, we're talking about, like, what's going to happen to Flint. Like, is it going to be a Katrina Part 2? Is it going to be a gentrification? Are they trying to make a land grab?
You beat me to that, bro, because that's exactly what I was thinking after Max said that.
Well, I mean, that's what we were talking about in class. And some of the people were like, that's going to be the logical thing that happens. Because they've probably been eyeing that land for a minute. You know, ignore the infrastructure, ignore the residents' complaint. This has been since April 2014. And hey, they want to come in and redevelop after the people have to be forced out to leave due to a lack of adequate infrastructure. Now I'm trying to ring my bell. Okay, so you're asking like how it relates to the urban planning. Well, I mean, it relates to that by the adequate levels of service. So whenever you have a development that wants to be put on a piece of land, it has to be able to ensure that it has adequate infrastructure already in place, or that it can pay for it itself, or you make a development, basically.
Right. So that's like where I grew up at in Brooklyn. Where I grew up in Brooklyn, two highways border it. It's easy. It has a bus depot and lots of transportation. So over the years, I've said, wait a minute. If these mofos decide to move here, it would be perfect for them because it only takes me 40 minutes to get to Wall Street. takes me about 40 minutes to an hour to get to Midtown. So what's going to happen? And slowly but surely, gentrification is happening in that section of Brooklyn, much like the rest of the borough and other parts of New York City.
Yeah, man. It's kind of like how they say, like, with the 5%, they say that you got to destroy and then rebuild. That's what developers do. They basically they've ignored the people and they let it deteriorate for so long. It's not just Flint. It's a lot of places too, and it becomes destroyed, and then they come in and rebuild. But the infrastructure's already got to be there for the rebuild.
Right.
So that's going to be the next phase, is repairing the infrastructure, and then they're going to come in for the tax. See, they think long range, man, and it's really starting to get fun, man. Like we need our own. We need our own.
Yes, sir. Indeed, and it's like media also plays a part in this. You know, when I was in college, I had a professor, and I forget what movie he showed us, but it showed how they use the media, whether it's print, whether it's TV, whether it's radio, to paint a picture for whatever they want the masses to see and where they want the masses to go and think. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good point. Good point. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh man, brother. Oh, looks like Hollip wants to get back in. Hold on a second. And he is. I don't see him. Oh, there he is. Hollip, you there?
Yes. I just wanted to, like, I was hearing y'all talk, and I just wanted to ask the question. It's a rhetorical question, but it's a question that I think needs to be asked. To all the Black Power Americans and militant integrationists out there who's saying that this is our land and we can do it right here, what I want to ask them is, do you have the maps for the transportation system, the maps for the sanitation system, and just the general maps for the area that you live in? Do you have the official maps where you know what resources are on the land? Have you done a survey?
Nope.
Like, which Black Power American can I go to get this information?
None. Zippo. Zero.
You know, I just want to put that out there.
With the infrastructure, you really can't fake it. You know what I mean? We can't, like, you know, fake this whole revolutionary talk, because with infrastructure, you got to either, you know, have it and do it, or you're not. You know, so it's like, what are they talking about when they're saying, you know, we need to buck the system or have, you know, some type of revolution? Like, I don't get it. Like, you have to control infrastructure. You got to know how it's laid out.
And also, like, as a rule, I believe that you should filter your water. Like, you should have filters on your faucet and filters. Like, I have a filtered water pitcher. Just as a rule, like, I don't really trust the state, no matter, even if the water supply is good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just as a general rule. But chlorine actually disinfects the water. So if you don't use chlorine, what are you going to use, an Ankh? Like, what are you going to use to disinfect the water? Because the river water is not drinkable water. What are you going to use to disinfect the water that's coming in to your populace? You got to use something.
Right. True talk.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's a lot of stuff we got to realize. We got to step into, you know, we got to be progressive. You know, a lot of the stuff that's in the conscious community is regressive. It is like, people really think that we're going to go back. Like, when they talk about nationhood or doing for self, they're talking about going back, living in the bush in the lotus position.
Oh no, yeah.
You know, we're gonna have tents and stuff. What, we're gonna be shitting like outside? Come on, man. This is a modern society that we're building.
Right.
No doubt.
You know, we got to get with the program. It's a lot of things that we have to just conspiratorial junk that's inside of our heads. That's all going to end when you control the infrastructure and when you actually run your society. That's all of this stuff is going to change, and then people are going to say, "Oh, damn, this is how you do it? You mean this is what I got to do to keep my people from being poisoned by the water? Oh shit."
Right.
This is what I got to do to make sure that the food that they're eating is not ravaged by, all types of bacteria and stuff. Wow. Like I said, man, until we get into a position where we can control our society from the top to the bottom, don't scream no black power to me. You faking. You faking and you scared. And I'm going in. You think I was bad before. Y'all see the title? You see the title to my next show?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Jonathan and everybody handle the infrastructure part. Let me handle the Negroes. I'm very good at that.
You're stupid. No, you're not.
I'm real good at handling these Negroes.
And pulling their card.
Yeah, I'm pulling your card. I'm putting a mirror to your bullshit. So you're going to have to look. I'm making us face all of our bullshit so we can move on and get to productive things because, it's ridiculous at this point. Flint is the perfect example of what we've been talking about. Like I said, that's the period exclamation point.
Yeah.
So when anybody asks, well, what do you mean with this land infrastructure nationhood? Flint, Michigan. That's what we mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Because none of y'all black power Negroes control the water supply. And I'm still trying to find that clip where I was talking about the water supply because I'm going to rebroadcast that again to show that I'm the prophet Hollop. Because this is what I said. How can you talk about black power when you letting another people control your water supply?
Right.
And you feel comfortable with that. Just like they feel comfortable with it now. They expect they sitting back crying and begging, and it's like the guy on the train, Mark, on the A train, who gets down on his knees and just starts crying for money. Oh, God, help me. That's the position. This is the position that they want our people to be in. Do you not have any love for our people?
Or yourself, for that matter.
We're going to beg. So you're going to sit back and wait for the white man to get his crews and his people to go down and redirect the water and filter the water and make sure that it's safe for you. You actually trust him to do that. After this fiasco, you still trust him to fix it.
It's all about getting paid.
And you're going to get mad at the BAIO?
Yeah.
What's going on in Flint is all about getting paid by the government and whatever agency controls the water supply.
Yeah, that new water supply company that's named after some Indian name. They were frothing at the mouth to get a part of that deal. They ended up signing the deal before the damn thing was even finished.
Yep. I was saying, go ahead, Jonathan.
I was going to just quickly say that it's not just the local governments either. Like every single region has what you call a water management district, and they're like just like how I say like cities have a comprehensive plan. Each water management district or WMD, they have a comprehensive plan for the water in that region. So the whole part of Eastern Michigan, they knew what was going down.
Yo, Minister, I know you got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much as I would love to stay online, brothers, and I thank you all for calling in. Y'all, my brothers, I love y'all. And I will, I guess to bounce. So, Max, I will more likely than not be checking y'all out tomorrow if I could. And
tomorrow,
see you other brothers.
Tomorrow we're gonna be talking about Michael Jordan in Chicago and his $650 sneakers.
Oh God.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! Yeah, I'll be there for that.
What cool.
I will be there for that. $650. I saw that. I didn't know if it was true because I saw it on somebody's Facebook post, and I was like, nah, they lying. There's no way that Jordans cost $650 now.
He's doubling
so you're
down.
saying that that's true?
He's doubling down, Minister.
The new Jordans he put out, $650.
Yeah, after
in 2
all
years,
the stuff
they're
that's been put out, all the propaganda they put out and against him raising the prices, he doubled down on it. He raised it even more.
True.
Funny, in Chicago around tax time.
Let Minister go, Mark. Minister got to go. We'll talk about it later.
Tomorrow.
Yes, sir. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
I love y'all,
Peace,
brother.